There is a vacuum in the political map in Israel, in the non-religious right to the Likud, and I am aiming to create such a party that will be a democratic, open for primaries and registration, and everybody can join and be elected, unlike other groups on the political map in the right wing in Israel. And I hope we will be able to be a significant part of the political map in Israel.
And what will this party run on? What main points?
It's much beyond the scope of this interview. I mean, I don't want to give it in a nutshell, and we overexpanded it. I mean, we can run it for another hour or two, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
And
No, well, yeah. If we can, we can concentrate on some key points of why it's imperative that there's a new government and what role Amichai can play.
Amichai is not a party. Amichai is a youth movement. Again, there's a vacuum in education and teaching in the non-religious population in Israel. We are almost in an post-Zionist era in Israel, because to my understanding, the only groups that still teach and educate for classical Zionism are the religious and the national religious groups in Israel. And parties and organizations that used to be Zionist, classical Zionist in Israel, are no longer so. They preach for Palestinian state. They are supporting the uprooting of Jewish settlements from Israel. They supported the disengagement and creation of Jewish refugees in their own homeland. This is not Zionism. And the vacuum is that almost the only population that kept the Zionist, classical Zionist education were the religious. I feel we need to build a new educational body, a new educational system for youth, for non-religious youth in Israel, and that's Amichai. It will be a youth movement that will work both on the community level to create involvement of the kids in their community, to volunteer for their community, to work with the needed in each place, and to be educated about the history of the people of Israel, the history of the state of Israel, to go places, to navigate, to know how to recognize the history of the country and the various historic sites in Israel. We are going to create groups of kids all over the country within the next few years, and I came this time to the States to raise fund for Amichai, which is this new youth movement.
But from a political party perspective, what would your objective be in terms of forcing or encouraging new elections? What would the pressing threat from Iran and the United States increasingly pressuring Israel on resolving the Palestinian issue.
Israel needs a new government because it needs a government that can take a decision. Right now, the situation in Sderot reflects a situation where the current government cannot take any decisions. It's a paralyzed government. Such a government should be replaced.
And do you think the United States is calling a lot of or is dictating a lot of the Olmert policy?
No?
So what's causing, in your opinion, what's causing the appeasement policy that the Kadima Party has demonstrated?
It's not even an appeasement policy. It's pure incompetent and short-sightedness. I mean, the government has failed in every single thing that they were doing. It will be a grace to them to accuse an external force in their faults. It's not the external American force that caused Ariel Sharon to go for the unilateral disengagement. It was his own criminal lawsuit that he was trying to avoid and took this spin to take the media and the legal system to support him when he's taking such brave steps. It wasn't external force. It wasn't any external force that prevented the government of Israel from winning the war in Lebanon. It was the pure incompetence to do that. It wasn't any external force who prevented the government of Israel of going into Gaza Strip and eliminate the rocket missile, the rockets that are fired over the West Negev. It's just incompetence. You don't have to find others to blame when the true reason and the true cause of these failures is the Israeli government, nothing else.
And so what role would you like to play in shaping Israel's future?
I spoke about it.
You already said it.
Shifting gears to something that's pressing this week, with your colleagues from the World Medical Association, vis-a-vis the British Medical Association's recommendation or request to expel Israel from the World Medical Association. Surely these physicians in Britain, or these academics, or these journalists, are reasonable, rational people. How do you suppose that they have been so misled, misinformed, to be so far biased? Is it rational, or is it irrational?
They're rational. They are educated. They are civilized. They love animals. And so were the Germans. It's just another shape and form of anti-Semitism that takes a new coat. It's very bad to be anti-Semitic, but it's all right to be anti-Israel. It's politically correct to be anti-Israel policy and anti-Israeli government, and it's fine. The only true cause of the decisions of the academic community in Britain is anti-Semitism. If they would study very carefully with academic tools the situation in the Middle East, that historically they have a huge responsibility of the chaos. by the way they conducted their policy in the Middle East, by the way that they broke their promises, their obligations in the British Mandate, by the fact that they really encourage the Arabs to attack Israel in 42 and lose everything, by the way that they supported the Palestinian refugee problem for the last 60 years instead of solving it. If they would study very carefully the true nature of the conflict in the Middle East, if there were a true justice court in the world, we weren't the one who would become guilty at that court. The only cause that made the Brits take the decision is that they found a legitimate way to express their old anti-Semitism.
And what do you think the World Medical Association ought to do with Britain's suggestion or initiative?
They should reject it.
And other British boycotts? How should the West view other British boycotts?
I'm against any boycotts in the academical level. I think that's goes or takes the world back to the Middle Ages, where there were these books that one shouldn't read and these philosophies that one shouldn't study, and now that they want to boycott Israeli academics. It's almost the same dark ages persecution against thinking, studies, science. What do they say? That people from Britain will not be allowed to treat their diseases in medications that were developed in Israel? That would be fair to say. You want to boycott us? Okay. Tell all the multiple sclerosis patients in England not to use the medications developed in the Weizmann Institute because Israel is bad. And the hundred of other items on the list that they will have to avoid if they will be really fair with and take their decisions all along the way. If they will choose the easy way to not to invite Israeli scientists to conferences in England, that's hypocrisy. If you want to boycott, boycott all the way.
If Gaza is an example of...
It's much too long.
I think that's it.
Much too long. I expected 5 minutes interview, 10 minutes to be cut to 5. We are almost an hour now.
No, it's enough because we have to go to school.
Okay.
Okay.
We can